I'll be spending the next 45 minutes talking about elevating the employee experience, basically how to create a great place to work for all. This is based on our experience working with many organizations globally that are part of our best workplaces in the Philippines and also around the world, as well as our experience certifying organizations globally as Great Place to Work certified. So let me begin, share that, any working adult, and I'd say that that's mainly all of us here in this virtual room, we would know that the work that we knew about 2 years ago, or even as far as long as we've been working, is not the work that that we are experiencing now, particularly in the past 2 years. This clearly tells us that the employee experience is evolving and there is a new normal emerging at work. Companies that never thought that they would possibly work remotely now have thousands of employees working virtually. So these are working parents who also had to struggle between their work as well as looking after their children who are attending school remotely. So what's really happening is that the line between home and work is eliminated, and we employees, we've adapted, but really it's not easy for us. The line between home and work was eliminated, and what's happening is that we're actually facing high degree of fear and anxiety. While many can work from home, and I think this continues, especially now with Omicron, there's still those who have to go back to work every single day. So as we know, these are the frontline workers, the security guards, delivery guys, and more now, there are people who are returning to work and adopting that hybrid model where they get to work from home in a couple of days and then go to work on certain days as well. And while some of them may be happy that we finally get to go back to work after many years, 2 years, there's still that element of fear. These are employees who are actually working in fear every single day. Like they're afraid of whether they will get the virus, fear of whether they will be carrier of the virus, or whether they are putting their own family at harm's way. So this experience has changed all of us. It's changed to some of us, it changed us at a higher degree than other people. Every single day, people face high degree of fear and anxiety. We experience emotional, physical, psychological uncertainties and stress like never before. And so we grapple. We try to find something that we can count on, something that's more stable, right? Something that's more predictable for us. And for some people, one of the very few things that they can count on is their job. It's their job that provides them with that predictability that they need. And to some, their jobs provide them that escape that they need from all those anxieties and worries in the day-to-day life, or even what they experience at their own home. The reality is that the global state of employee well-being, it's not pretty. And in the Philippines, the situation is no different. Recently, this happened just late last year, Great Place to Work, as part of our global research, we recently surveyed about 14,000 people worldwide to understand better what are the trends that we are seeing in an average person's day-to-day work. What is their experiences when it comes to their well-being? And we partnered with Johns Hopkins University in Maryland, US, to design this study. You can find a full copy of this study in our website. But what I want to show you some highlights from that study. What we really wanted to find out is that, are employees satisfied, or are they highly dissatisfied with their overall well-being in life? So it's not just work, but life in general. Do they experience an environment of well-being at work? Is there that sense of purpose? Do they find meaning in the work that they do? Do they feel that they belong? Do they feel lonely at work? And is there that sense of hope? Are they optimistic about the future? So basically what we're trying to find out are 4 things: their overall well-being, that sense of purpose, connection, and hope. And here's what we found. Globally, this is the global results. So you see the black line right now. Globally, what we found is that 40% of people that we surveyed say that they are highly dissatisfied with their overall well-being in life. Around 40% do not find purpose in work. Around 30% do not feel that they belong. And about 70%, that peak at the bottom, that 70% of the respondents are saying that they are not optimistic about the future. This is the global results. If you look at it in Asia level, we can see the gray line, right? That the results are not far from what we've observed globally. Now, some of you may be curious, how does this compare to the results in the Philippines? This is the red line, the Philippines results. Over 80% of the people that we surveyed in the Philippines say that they are highly dissatisfied with their overall well-being in life, not just at work, but overall well-being in life. Around 50% say they do not experience well-being at work. The good news, though, is that if you look at, that there are some drops there, the red dots, right? The good news is that generally, Filipinos seem to have a better grasp of their purpose at work, that sense of purpose. As well as we can see the findings in regard to connection, that Filipino bayanihan spirit, which is innate to us, is also showing, wherein less Filipinos, with Filipino respondents are saying that they feel lonely at work. But nonetheless, if you look at the last data point when it comes to hope, just like global and Asia results, Filipinos are not that optimistic when it comes to the future. A great place to work, our mission is to build a better world by helping organizations become great places to work for all. Allow me to share a bit more about who we are, because I want to establish that credibility on the data that I'm sharing with you. And later on, I will be talking about our model and some best practices as well. So it's important for me to establish, who we are and where are these data points coming from. So you know that it's something that you can trust and it's something that's credible. At Great Place to Work, we survey the world. We work with over 10,000 companies in 97 countries, and we survey over 10 million employees. And with our rigorous methodology, we gather and evaluate employee high performance cultures. Hence, making Great Place to Work the global authority in workplace culture and the gold standard of recognition. We are most known for Fortune 100 Best Companies to Work For list that is published annually in the US since 1998. We do have a local equivalent, which we call the Philippines Best Workplaces list. After over 30 years of building great workplaces worldwide, we have finally set foot in the Philippines in mid-2019. So we are now coming into our third year in the Philippines. In March last year, we announced the top 10 best workplaces in the Philippines. And these are the companies, the logos that you are seeing on the screen. These are the 10 companies that made it in our list. And I'm personally very happy because in our inaugural year, the very first list that we published, there were 5 companies that made it on the list. So in just 1 year, the numbers doubled. And to me, this shows that there is a growing awareness in our country on the importance of creating high trust workplace culture and the importance of elevating your employee experience. In about 2 months' time, on March 23rd, we will be announcing the Philippines Best Workplaces 2022. And again, I'm very happy to share that from 10 list makers, there are 25 companies that made it in Philippines Best Workplaces 2022 list. They now fall under 3 categories: small companies, medium, and large organizations based on their employee headcount. And our Pinoy Pride continues. Just last, I think that was about July last year, we also announced the 2021 Asia's Best Workplaces list. And there were 9 companies from the Philippines that made it in Asia's Best Workplaces. Canva, Philippines, I'm sure many of you are familiar with Canva and you're using it perhaps for work or your personal creative activities. Canva Philippines is number 1 in 100 best small and medium businesses category in Asia. And so as I share this, I hope it stirs up your Pinoy pride, as there's increasing number of Philippine companies that being recognized, not just in our country, but also regionally. And our hope is that one day there will be one in the best workplaces list. as we also publish World's Best Workplaces annually. And these are the companies that make the 2021 World's Best Workplaces. Now, why is this important? It's because what we find is that, remember that chart that I showed you just a couple of minutes ago? What we find is that, the well-being experience of employees at Great Place to Work certified company, as well as the best workplaces, are much better than in organizations that are not part of Great Workplace certified or best workplaces list. So say, for example, 8 in every 10 employees of Great Place to Work certified company across the globe are saying that they have a positive well-being experience. And 9 out of 10 employees at 2021 World's Best Workplaces, which is also the same in the Philippines, 9 out of 10 employees at Philippines Best Workplaces are also having a positive well-being experience. So this tells us that these companies are doing something for their employees that make them have that positive well-being experience and for them to elevate their employees' experience. So what are these? The question now is, what are the best workplaces doing to elevate their employee experience? And I would believe that, this is what you also wanted to find out why you joined this webinar. How can you elevate your employee experience? What can you learn from this Great Place to Work certified companies as well as best workplaces so that you can also do something to improve your employee experience? The answer to that is trust. With all the changes, and ambiguity that we are experiencing globally right now, what we find is that there's one thing that remains, and that is trust. Trust is what makes a great workplace. People want to experience an environment where they are trusted and they trust the people around them. Employees want to be respected by the leaders that they work for. They want management to be believable and trustworthy. And at Great Place to Work, we call this credibility. Employees also want to believe that their managers treat them fairly. These are the 3 things: respect, credibility, and fairness. These are the 3 things that employees need from their leaders. And employees also want to feel proud of the work that they do and of what they've accomplished at their workplace. And pride, it's something that's beyond the swags that you give your employees or your employees wearing your company t-shirt. It's more than that. Employees feel that sense of pride when they know that they make a difference in your organization. So that's when they feel proud to tell others that they work for your company. And employees also want to be a part of something. They want to be connected. And we call this camaraderie. So it is when your employees consistently have a positive experience of trust, pride, and camaraderie at your workplace that their employee experience is elevated. And that's what will make your company a great place to work. So what I've actually described is our Great Place to Work Trust Index model. This is a 30-year-old model based on research, and just at the onset of the pandemic was also revisited to see whether it still applies. And the answer is yes, most definitely. In fact, if you read many articles about leadership or HR, you would know that there's a lot of articles saying that more and more trust is very important. It's a key factor in organizations for organizations to thrive, especially during this period. And we define a great workplace as one wherein you trust the people that you work for, you have pride in what you do, and you enjoy the people that you work with. And this is exactly what we are seeing at Philippines' best workplaces. You can read it from the employee testimonials. DHL employee highly commends their leaders who look after their well-being. And Canva employee who's very thankful for all the support, the resources given to them so that they could be productive when working from home. They were given laptops, swag kits, and other resources. But beyond that, they continue to conduct fun engagement activities which make employees feel that they are still together, that they are still connected. And finally, an employee of Synchrony is thankful for still having their job and recognizing that their leaders at Synchrony have put their people first during these difficult times. So our great place to work model is anchored in a strong foundation of trust. This high trust is consistently experienced by your employees across the organization. So it's not just, a pocket of your employees within your organization having that high trust experience. It has to be across all levels of your organization. It has to be a consistent, positive experience of all your employees, or at least majority of your employees, regardless of their demographic profile. And that is what we call a great place to work for all. Trust solidifies with strong values and great leaders that live out those values, then you're able to maximize your employees' full potential. And when you maximize their full potential, that is when your employees are able to bring their whole selves at work and are comfortable and confident to share their ideas with you, with the leaders. And it is when you tap on those best ideas that your employees bring forward that your financial growth is unlocked in the business. So this is what we call our great place to work for all model. And this is what makes best workplaces. I'll be spending perhaps the next 15 minutes talking about, every aspect of this for all model. So I'll be going through this 7 elements. It'll be a bit, technical, but what I'll do is I'll share with you some reflection points for you to think about and maybe bring back home or go back and talk to your leaders or HR team about, so that you can assess in your own where you are. Like, are you actually building that great place to work for all experience for your employees? So let's start with, of course, trust. So as we saw in the great place to work trust model, trust is experienced in the organization when employees see their leaders are credible. So when they are respected and treated fairly. So as HR leaders, it is important for you to assess your workplace culture and see if high level of trust is apparent. So here are some reflection points. You can ask yourself, what is unique about your company culture and how is it lived out? So every organization is unique. We cannot just take what makes the number one best workplace, company up there and then apply it. You just copy it. It doesn't work that way. Your organization has its own unique DNA, and you need to find out what it is. You should be able to articulate it, identify it, articulate it, define it, and make sure that it is lived out within your organization. How does your company intentionally include everyone? Remember, it is a great place to work for all, not just for some of your employees. Is there human touch as you execute your programs and practices versus those being transactional? Every year, we read what we call culture audit submission from many organizations in different parts of the world who wants to be named as the best workplaces in their country. And in this culture audit, we are able to learn what are the practices and programs that companies provide their employees. And of course, it ranges, right? Like some organizations have really long list of programs and practices, while others would have a couple, but yet powerful. So it's not really just a quantity of programs and practices. What is important is that there's clarity on what you want the culture to be, and that all these programs and practices that you have are well integrated into an overarching theme. Okay, so that it's very easy for your employees to answer the question that who is your company as an employer. So that is very important. Again, it's not just the number of practices, programs that you keep on implementing. It's really being intentional around it, making sure that those programs and practices are well aligned to the culture that you wanted to have. This is actually called, like some organizations would call this philosophies, others would call this employee value proposition. So no matter how you call it, what's the most important thing is that number one, it is, what it is, you articulate it. Number two, all of your programs and practices are tied to that overarching theme. And number three, when you execute it with human touch. It's not just something transactional that you are giving out because you know that your employees want it. Take for example, DHL Express. DHL Express is the number one Philippines' best workplaces, Asia's best workplaces, and world's best workplaces in 2021. And as a global leader in transportation and express logistics, with most of its workforce considered to be frontliners, so you can imagine how difficult it was for DHL Express to support their employees, especially at the beginning of the pandemic. And yet they made it as number one worldwide. So what makes DHL Express the number one best workplace? It's actually a combination of their as one unity, along with their commitment in fulfilling their employee promise that resulted in 99% of DHL employees saying that they feel proud to be a part of the organization and that they say that their work has a meaning for them. In line with their EVP of connecting people, improving lives, DHL has also risen above the unprecedented challenges brought by the pandemic and provided their employees with best workplace in the country and the world. You know, like there are many things that they've done, and you know, one of the examples that I really like and I wanted to share with you is that the last bullet of what you see on the screen is that in the spirit of togetherness at DHL Express shown the most in 2020 during the National Heroes Day, when 23 employees, including their country manager, some of the directors, volunteered to help their frontline workers to deliver, couriers during that long weekend. Another example is how their country manager, HR director would personally call each of their employees that were inflicted by COVID-19, by the virus. So what this tells us, as I've mentioned earlier, there is that human touch, that leaders themselves go down the line, connect with their people in a personal way. It's not just mere programs and policies. You can learn more about the best practices from DHL Express in our 2021 Philippines Best Workplaces Insights report. You may email me to get a copy, or you can also download it from our website. The next element after trust is values. So having trust as an anchor of the Great Place to Work model, the next component now is values. So values are what leaders use to make decisions that cannot be made just by looking at worksheets or data. So when we talk about Great Place to Work for All, we're not talking about mere, the slogan on the wall, your core values written in sometimes in the, in the company ID or in your intranet. This actually pertains to the principles that guide your employees day to day, that guide their behavior day to day, as well as values that guide your leaders in making difficult decisions. So you can ask yourselves, are your company values, again, clearly articulated? Are these well articulated to your employees, and do they have a common understanding of what those values mean? How do your core values play out day to day? So you can think about your onboarding, your hiring decisions, onboarding, leadership development, rewards and recognition. How are your employees promoted? All of these key programs, how are these tied to your company values? And very important, what happens when those values are really put to test? When push comes to shove, will an organization rely on its values? Like, will you rely on the values to shape your decision and how you will handle such difficult situation? So, for example, how do your values influence what happens when mistakes occur by an individual or a mistake done by the organization? How do your values apply to your customers and even the broader community when it might cost your company something? Our research tells us that the best companies ensure that their values and behaviors are well defined, known by everyone in the business, and used to support in the execution of the company's strategy. So these are some reflection points that I want, encourage you to bring back home and reflect upon pertaining particularly to values. The next element is leadership effectiveness. So when it comes to leaders, it's not only about leadership competencies, their effectiveness in decision making or managing the business. It is also about how strong is their personal connection with your people. Do they, do they connect with your people? Do they even, spend time? Would your employees say that it is that your leaders are approachable and easy to talk to? They should be seen by your employees as someone who embodies the culture itself. And at best workplaces, leaders have an emotional connection with the company's culture and your people. So some of the things that you might want to reflect on together with your leaders would be how are your company's strategy, direction, and goals developed? How are these communicated? And do your leaders have what they need to effectively connect with your people and communicate those strategies? So this is where your leadership development program comes into play. How are you able to support your leaders so that they would be able to connect with your people and live out, embody the values and the culture that you have? At best workplaces, their principles and philosophies tie well with their business strategies and decisions at all levels of the organization. So it's not just seen from at the top or the frontline managers. At every level of the organization, their employees experience how and they witness how their leaders are able to connect with them and embody those principles that the organization has. If there is any magic, to best workplaces, we'd say that it is their ability to bring out the best of their people's talent with extraordinarily high degree of consistency. So they bring out the talent, their people's extraordinary talent, regardless where this talent sits in the organization. It's not just situated in one department or not just the new hires, not just the millennial. It's actually across the organization. This ability to maximize human potential is what turns a great place to work into a best workplace, and it reaps reward not just for your people but also for your business. So while great workplaces do an excellent job building trust with their typical employee, the best workplaces actually raise the bar. Um, by consciously ensuring that they bring out the best in those wide range of employees. So regardless whether your new hire is an introvert or extrovert, whether the new hire is from Manila or some other parts or regions in the country, a recent graduate or a seasoned professional, a single mom or a widower, regardless of whatever profile that person is, that person has a fair chance to progress in your organization, and that the unique talents they bring are desired, and they're able to make a difference in your organization. What this means is that there is consistency of people's experience across different demographic groups in your company. Um, so trust looks at how results are overall, while maximizing human potential is about consistency of experience across demographic groups. And what we see is that when there is trust in the organization, there is clarity of values, and the leaders exhibit, they embody those values, they are effective. The companies are then able to maximize your people's potential. That's when employees go the extra mile to do what is best for the business. And this is one key trait that we're looking for at great workplaces. Again, this is like how I started describing this. It's like if there's a magic into it, this is it. Your ability to provide your employees a consistent experience. That is why we call it great place to work for all. To evaluate, to do your self-reflection on whether you are maximizing your human potential, you can ask yourselves, what do you do to make sure that your people count on being, that you're able to treat your people equitably? What strategies do you have in place to create accountability and success in areas like equitable hiring, pay, promotion, and even the allocation of development and coaching or resources, those learning resources. How do you systematically ensure that different people in your organization fully belong, and that their uniqueness is leveraged, right? Like women in workplaces, LGBTQ, different profiles. How do you make sure that these people feel that they belong in your company? And very important, how do you equip your leaders and how do you engage them so that they would be inclusive as leaders? And this is what we call at Great Place to Work, we call this for all leaders. So how are your leaders supported to demonstrate inclusive behavior? Has your organization articulated what a for all or an inclusive leader is? What does it mean to you? What does it look like in your organization? Is there an intention in your organization? Like, are you intentional when it comes to hiring, developing, and hiring, developing good range of leaders and making them accountable to be inclusive in managing their people? So those are some of the things, some key points that you can look into when you reflect if your organization is able to maximize human potential. When companies maximize their employees' full potential, what we begin to see is a culture that we call innovation by all. This is a culture where innovation comes from anywhere, any part of the business. So this is not just from the research department or if you have your IT department, but everyone in your company, even those in the corporate office, even us as HR, are able to innovate. Again, this happens when all of your employees are encouraged, they feel empowered and recognized for trying new and better ways of doing things, regardless of who they are, regardless of their role in the business. But I don't want you to get stuck in the word innovation. By innovation, we aren't exactly looking at, history making type of inventions. So this could be just continuous improvement, or something to a new idea that an employee may apply in their day-to-day work. So it doesn't really matter. It doesn't have to be something big. Best companies are distinguished by having a unique ability to engage all their talents in fueling new and better ways of doing things to drive business success. So again, some points that you can ask yourself: what systems do your companies have in place to drive innovation? So perhaps do you have programs to enable collaboration or idea sharing? There are many apps now that would support your employees to do this. Or maybe do you have dedicated resources? Some companies have their own physical space for collaboration, training session that promote employees' ideas. And how do you also equip your leaders to respond to their employees' ideas? So leaders should be able to respond well when employees give their ideas as well, so that we don't just shut them off and discourage them from giving all those ideas. Does innovation happen intentionally or just by chance in your organization? And when it happens, how do you recognize them? Is there a reward recognition program in place for you to acknowledge these employees who are sharing their ideas? And equally important is that what happens when you try something new, but then it didn't succeed? Is there a feedback loop? Are people reprimanded for it, or does your company recognize that honest mistake is part of the business? Is there a sense of appreciation, at least for the effort that it took to come up with the idea and the courage to even try it? And lastly, how do you measure success or quantify the business impact of innovation in your organization? All of this, the trust, values, leadership effectiveness, maximizing your employees' potential, and having that culture of innovation by all of this result to what we call financial growth. When you put your people first, your employees will look after your business. And this is what we are seeing in best workplaces worldwide. Again, this is what we call the great place to work for all model. And these are the things that we are looking into when we evaluate organizations and whether they are best workplaces. But anyone in HR would be able to say that this is not easy, right? Like it takes a lot to build a high trust workplace culture. It takes a lot to elevate your employee experience, particularly right now when everyone's working somewhere else in other parts, of the country, working remotely and all the shifts and changes that we're going through. Is it worth it? Um, Knowing that it takes effort, it takes time. What are the benefits of having a great workplace experience for your employees? So let me share some with you. Employee retention. What we find in our study is that 9 in 10 employees of Philippines' best workplaces say that they want to work in their company for a long time. This is compared to 82% of employees consistently saying yes to this statement that are not part of best workplaces. So this is again based on 2021 results. And why is this important? Why do we want to retain employees? It's because research shows that the cost of hiring a new person is 6 times more, it's equivalent to 6 times of that person's salary. Okay, so let me say that again. When you replace an employee, the cost of that is 6 times of that person's salary. So there are actually costs associated to sourcing, onboarding, and training your new hire until that person is fully ready to assume the new role that is on par with your expectations. Talent attraction. Research shows that 75% of job seekers consider an employer brand before applying. So if you are a Gen Xer like me, you would know that the recruitment process from both the perspective of a candidate and a company and employer is very much different now than it was 20 years ago, where everything is just in a um, Sunday Manila Bulletin. You just, see whatever job ad is there and then you apply, sometimes even send a written mail. Now it doesn't work that way anymore. Because of social media, your candidate knows you even before your first interaction. They know a lot about your company even before you meet with them. This means that your employer brand is now more significantly important, just like your consumer brand. And the good news is that those companies who intentionally build their employer brand benefits from this. We find that best workplaces receive 250 times more job applications than organizations who are not intentional in building their employer brand. And of course, we do not just want to hire and retain your employees. We want to keep them engaged. Studies show that engaged employees are more productive, innovative, and they work like business owners. They're willing to go the extra mile to deliver outstanding results. So our study shows that 9 in every 10 employees of Philippines' best workplaces, they don't just stay there. They are actually looking forward to coming to work every day. So they are motivated, driven to work. They are not just there because they needed a job. What you also want to happen is having your very own employee as your brand ambassador. 9 in 10 employees of Philippines' best workplaces say that they will strongly endorse their company to friends and families as a great place to work. Why is this important? Why do you want this? Why would you want this to happen? It's because your employees are fully immersed in your business. They know what you need. They know exactly the type of people that will fit in your culture. They know what it will take to bring your business to the next level. So, then who could be, a better filters in your candidate search than your employees. So that is why it's important to elevate your employee experience, because your employees themselves will become your brand ambassadors. And that is also why, happy employees, they would say good things about your organization. But it's not just that. The flip side of the coin is also true. Employees who are not happy, disgruntled employees would just also post about their experience in your company in social media. Employees of best workplaces are most likely to participate in the recruitment process. And that is why employee referral program at best workplaces is actually 3 times more effective than in other organizations. All of this, of course, translate to financial savings for your organization. 50% lower cost per hire, if you have a strong employer brand and employers spend the equivalent of 6 to 9 months of employee salary in order to find and retain their replacement. So you're able to save this kind of financial investment by elevating your employee experience, working on your employer brand. Then again, I want to remind you that it starts with trust. Everyone, we need to start somewhere. So the journey of elevating your employee experience, of creating a great place to work for all, for your employees, starts with trust. That is the anchor. Trust with clarity of values that you have in your company. What are those core values? And values that guide your employees in their day-to-day work and guide your leaders in making difficult decisions, leaders that embody your values, your philosophies, and have that human touch. They connect with their people authentically. Having trust, values, leadership effectiveness leads to maximizing human potential. And that is when you are able to build a great place to work for all people in your organization, regardless of your employees' demographic group. They are able to have that consistent positive experience in your company. And when they do, that's when they're confident to bring their whole selves at work, to innovate, share their ideas, work together with you in bringing your organization to the next level where you experience financial growth. I also want to invite you, to connect with me. So if you feel like, if right now in your mind it's like, Tony, we are so far from this, we cannot be great place to work certified yet, or we're not even, much more be one of the Philippines' best workplaces. It is okay. We all need to start somewhere. The journey needs to start somewhere. So I invite you to download a copy of the Philippines Insights Report. We publish this every year. This is a 75-page, very rich information on how you can elevate your employee experience and as well as your employer brand. You can go to our website or scan the QR code, which directs you to my LinkedIn page, so that you can send me a message and I can give you a free copy of that, as well as a copy of these materials if you want to have one. I'd be happy to connect with you. So do drop me a message. And lastly, of course, I want to thank you for your time. And my final invite for you is do join us in making great places to work for all in the Philippines. Let's create, a better employee experience for our fellow Filipinos, and let's create a high trust workplace culture for all.